Today, we're going to talk about chapter one of a book I am writing. I am on chapter one, and my eyes look hideous. I am sick. I've been sick for 2 days now, and I'm trying to sweat it out in the gym. But I am going to talk to you about the book I'm writing in chapter one specifically, where I talk about wellness and health behaviors that lead to better wellness. And so, wellness is a spectrum of influences in our life that help us become disease free, happy, and social. So, wellness continuum is mental health, social health, cognitive health, physical health, financial health, and we can talk about emotional health as well. So, after we get into that, we'll talk about the health-related components of fitness, physical activity, and exercise, which are also wellness components, but probably need a little bit further explanation. But we're going to specifically start with mental health. Looking at the research when it comes to mental health, it doesn't really show the best correlations when we look at breathing in the literature for mental health or yoga practices for mental health. There's not a lot of evidence that shows that breath work is good or has benefits for mental health, but breath work itself for mental health can lead to lower anxiety, maybe lower depression, and also it can increase our awareness. So, although we're not specifically hitting mental health, we are able to lower anxiety and stress through breathing. This is known in the research. Deep breathing, relaxation techniques are shown to reduce anxiety and stress, which can improve mental health. But mental health itself, or positive mental health and well-being, may not be associated with breathing. But take in consideration that anxiety and stress can decrease with deep breathing exercises. So I started breathing and getting into breath work in 2005, and I got into Alan Watson meditations, started really focusing on my own breath instead of, let's just say, problems that were going on in my life. So breathing is a ways and a means to take your energy off of cognitive thought and to focus on physical expression of breath. So focusing on your diaphragm, when you inhale, it moves down, your belly moves out, it expands, your lungs fill up. When you exhale, the opposite happens. The diaphragm moves up, the lungs kind of dismiss all of the air, and we get all the carbon dioxide out. So our body does a good job at taking the oxygen and putting it into our veins and arteries via respiration. So when we inhale oxygen, it goes to our bronchial tubes into our alveoli. That alveoli takes oxygenated blood to the heart, which is the only vein that has oxygenated blood, and then it dispels oxygenated blood throughout the aorta and comes back via the superior and inferior vena cava. So this process occurs, and we are able to get oxygen to all of our cells. So that's why breathing is my most important component of mental health and wellness. The next component is social health. Now, in order to have social health, you have to have good cooperation skills, good teamwork ability, and also the ability to lead others or follow. So this ability to be social and cooperative and collaborative with a group of people is a form of wellness. People that do not have social groups have higher risk of depression and lower mental health statuses than people that have social groups. So whether it's your workplace or a close family group, or even people in your neighborhood, it's really good to have a social setting of people that you can cooperate with, collaborate with, share ideas with. Otherwise, you keep those festered inside and nobody gets to hear your thoughts, and you don't get to express your emotions, which we'll talk about next. So emotional health is really important because behave in a manner that affects others. So if we are very anxious, but we show we're anxious, we may make other people anxious. If we are stressed, we show that we are stressed, we may stress other people out. This can lead to counseling from our friends, hey, how are you doing? I can see that you're stressed, which results into non-productive wellness, right? So wellness is the ability to be free from emotional disturbances, social disturbances, cognitive disturbances, physical disturbances. We're trying to avoid those to have a productive and meaningful, healthy life. So emotional health is tied to behavior, and behavior is tied to our emotions and emotional health, and our expression is delivered through our nonverbal and verbal communication skills. So whether that's fidgeting or acting stressed or being stressed in a way that exudes the stress, people are going to see it. So this emotional well-being needs to be kept in a check. So we want to think about temperament and how we avoid or not avoid the emotional problems that may exist in our head. And what I mean by that is we are going to let other people see how we feel inside, whether that's through our nonverbal or verbal communication skills. So right now, you may be looking at me and saying, he's not very expressionate, he's not smiling a lot. Maybe he's mad or maybe he's angry. So I might not be coming across as a positive person, but you can affect people in a way, verbally or non-verbally. So that would be emotional health, and that would be something I'm trying to convey with people, is to have better temperament around other people, meaning that if you are stressed or anxious, that you don't really show the stress or anxiousness. You do kind of what is your role or your status of the job, and you try to leave those things in your own kind of own emotional state, whether that's with family members or with our close friends. Because if we are constantly expressing our emotions to others, people are going to feel like they have to counsel us, and that's not going to lead to productive social life, which will decrease our mental health. Okay, so we've talked about mental health, we've talked about social health and emotional health. Now we're going to talk about financial health. And so obviously, when you are not financially stable, you're going to be more stressed, you're going to be susceptible to anger, you're going to also be susceptible to gimmicks and tricks to try to create wealth, which can lead to not productive or non-productive means of associating yourselves with other people, and a lower social health, lower emotional health will lead to lower mental health. So your financial health is super important. That has to be in check. You have to create a budget. You have to understand what your finances are at. You also have to make enough to live and have good well-being, because we know that people that are financially unstable or don't have high economic status are going to be susceptible to obesity, are going to be susceptible to some health risks, behaviors that will lead to maybe cardiorespiratory disease or cardiovascular disease or any other mental impairments due to not having the financial means to have a well life. And we know that things cost money, like exercise, eating well costs money, but we have to get our finances in check to have full mental and emotional and social health. Next, we'll talk about physical health. And when we talk about physical health, we want to think about exercise and physical activity. Exercise is routine or legitimate physical activity that is planned and structured and periodized, meaning that we are changing the sets and the volumes and the exercises through phases of training. That is true exercise. That is what we would call exercise. Physical activity is any movement, or let's just say you're a mechanic or construction worker and you're physically active. That's not exercise because it's not routine, and we can't load the variables, we can't change the variables, and it's hard to know exactly how long you're going to be physically active for, how long you're going to be doing each set and rep for. So exercise is predetermined, physical activity is not predetermined. So our physical health is really important. We want to make sure we get 150 minutes of physical activity per week. We want to train or exercise at least 2 times per week, and we want to get about 30 minutes of cardiovascular activity each day, upwards to 60 to 90 minutes per day of either walking, biking, or any type of rowing or swimming. Now, that's not going to be doable for everybody, but that's what it takes to optimize your full health and well-being. So we've talked about social health, emotional health. We've talked about, um, physical health, financial health, and we can also talk about intellectual health. Okay, and so making sure that you're staying current with the new fads, the new diets, and you're understanding the science behind these things, and you're also able to realize what is fake and what is real when it comes to the gimmicks on the internet. So, like, if you're always susceptible to taking on a new training program or exercise program, you're not alone, but you have to also be susceptible to the gimmicks and tricks and trades of the charlatans of the fitness industry that are just trying to sell you on something. So intellectual health is really important for wellness because we need to be able to detect the lies and the kind of misconceptions when it comes to our health in general. So what can we eat? What can we not eat? Those types of things. When we talk about nutritional health, which will come next, we want to think about knowing how many calories we should be eating per day and how many carbs, fats, and proteins we should be having per day based on our calorie count. So, for example, if I was eating 3,000 calories, I would want to make sure I'm getting about 55% carbohydrates, 15% protein, and about 25% fats. I may even go 20% fat, 20% protein, and maybe 60% carb. I could do something or another a little bit different, but you want to make sure you're getting more carbs than you are fat and protein. And if you're not worried about calorie counting, then just make sure that you're getting 100 grams of protein per day if you're strength training. If you're not strength training, you probably don't need that much protein because your body's not using the amino acids to build up the muscle because you're not breaking them down. So in order to build muscle, you have to break it down. In order to build the wall of the amino acid blocks, you have to eat amino acids, whether that's plant or animal based. So it doesn't matter how you get your protein, just try to get at least 100 grams per day, upwards to 200 grams if you're 200 pounds. So that's physical health, nutritional health. Now we're going to talk about the health-related components of fitness and the skill-related components of fitness. Okay, so the health-related components of fitness are things like muscular endurance, muscular strength. We can also add in flexibility, BMI is in there, and cardiovascular training. So those would be the 5 elements of health-related components of fitness. Your skill-related components of fitness are going to be coordination, agility, balance, reaction time, speed, power, and there may be a couple others in there like balance, coordination, agility. I think I've mentioned those, but those are the skill-related components of fitness. So fitness has 2 different components, and those components can be broken down into those elements of the components. So when people talk about fitness or fitness influencers, they typically only talk about the muscular strength, power, flexibility thing, but they kind of forget about the skill-related components and also BMI. BMI, body mass index, is going to represent if you are overweight or not overweight. If you want more accurate, you would just get your body fat percentage in your Cunningham lean mass equation, or using a Harris-Benedict equation, or not the Harris-Benedict equation, but those would help you get your calories. As far as BMI or body fat percentages, that's going to help put you in a range. You want to be, if you're a male, about 12% body fat would be ideal, and if you're female, probably 16 to 18% body fat. If you're going to be pregnant, you probably want to be over 18 to 20% body fat. If you're a male and you're competing, you don't want to go under 4% because that is essential, and that will change your whole body composition even further. If you go below 4%, you will not be able to function. Girls, you don't want to go under 6 to 8%, I believe, because of reproductive issues. But if you don't care about that kind of stuff, and you're going to risk your health, then just know that there are essential body fat percentages you don't want to go under. You don't want to go over 25% if you're a male, and you don't want to go over 30% if you're a female for body fat percentage. Okay, so that's body fat percentage. Cardiovascular training, resting heart rate, you want to be under 60 beats per minute is optimal. 60 to 80 beats per minute is average. So 60 to 70, if that was your resting heart rate, that would be great. And then you can look at your resting heart rate when you're sleeping. Most of the time it will be under 60 or maybe even 50 or 40 beats per minute if you are if you do your cardiovascular training. So that would be something that would be normal. Your blood pressure, you'd want to be 120 over 60 or 70, but nothing over 80 on the systole. So it's diastole over systole. The systole is how much it pumps out. Sorry, that's the top number. So 120 would be systole. That's how much pressure is exuded out. And then in between beats, the fill of blood is the dystole. So that would be the lower number, how much pressure involved is. And if it's very high, it means that your heart is a little weak. And if it means it's not able to push out or pull in as much. So just remember that. When it comes to other factors like health-related components of fitness, muscular strength, hypertrophy, and all that, that's going to be in chapter 2 in my next video. So hopefully you check out video number 2 of Weber's Wellness Guide. All right, thanks a lot.